Unfortunately, we've been doing some research for a presentation we're doing. Only 25 states require someone to even take a finance or economics course to even graduate from high school. So that's a problem. So we don't even know how to be taught to be entrepreneurs, let alone the tax stuff. And even the CPA exam, nowhere on the CPA exam do they test you on actual tax planning and strategy. It's just, do you know this information?
This podcast is sponsored by Engineered Tax Services, a subsidiary of Engineered Advisory, whose goal is to support CPAs and their clients to achieve the highest and best use of time and resources. ETS offers specialty tax services and incentives, which help expand your capabilities and ensure that your clients are paying only what is required in taxes and nothing more. To learn more about Engineered Tax Services, go to engineeredtaxservices.com and mention the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast to receive project discounts and a free CPA partnership ebook. Hi, everyone. This is Heidi Henderson, and you are listening to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast for accountants. I am really passionate about people and the industry. And I truly believe that the accounting industry can do better for both our clients and its professionals. So I'm going to share insights from people who have found professional success and who have managed to balance that with their physical, mental, and personal health. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope you get inspired. Accountants can earn free CPE from listening to this episode. Just visit earmarkcpe.com, download the app, take a short quiz, and get your CPE certificate. And now, on to the episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. Today, this is fun. I think this is fun every day, but I'm excited. Today, we are with Chris Picciurro. And Chris, your bio, I was looking at the bio. I'm like, it just goes on and on. And I'm so excited to hear about how you've built your career, your practice, and then really the trajectory and evolution of where you're going with it, because it's so unique and outside the box. You and I met because I was on your podcast, by the way, which we'll share the name of that and talk more about it. And it was very dynamic. I loved how you have your cohort that is on the podcast with you. It was really fun and energetic. A little bit about Chris for the listeners, so they have some background, is you are CPA with many other designations, professional designations. You formed your own CPA firm, Integrated CPA Group, and have run that successfully for, looks like the last 20 years. A public accountant, PFS designation, which is personal financial specialist. You are an accredited retirement advisor, an adjunct instructor at Davenport University, also with Baker's College. You've obviously presented and spoken in many different platforms across the country, both looks like industry as well as tax, all over, and awards for that. And then sitting on a number of different boards. Like I say, I could continue to go on, but I think that helps listeners really understand. I think the biggest thing is that you have not just jumped into the public accounting space, but that you literally just took it by storm in terms of saying, look, I'm going to dive in and I want to be able to bring everything I can to the table. So thank you, first off, so much for joining today. Can't wait to talk to you and learn more about what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It is really an honor. I'm a fan of the podcast. I love picking up tidbits like niches make riches. I heard that one this last couple weeks. Bald Accountants Gone Wild is my podcast. We'll get into that later. I have run our CPA practice for over 20 years. I appreciate you telling me I've run it successfully for 20 years, but unfortunately, the first 10 years, I wouldn't say it was unsuccessful, but we definitely failed forward a lot. It led me to the place that I'm at right now. And what I feel is a calling, and by the grace of God, these windy rivers have gotten me to the place that we are, not just in business, but personally and in health, both physical, mental health. And I'm so excited to be on this podcast. I feel like we, as accountants, we do many, many times. Big theme would be let our work let our workflow, is what we say in our practice, control us,
Hmm.
not us control it. And that I just see that a lot. I see a lot of burnout. I don't see a lot of, you see a little bit of multi-generational practicing,
Hmm.
but much less than in other industries, which is kind of sad. And that tells me that that we've got to fix some things.
Yep. Yep. I couldn't agree more. And I love so many of the phrases that you said there about failing forward, which is, I mean, so much the epitome of what we learn, I think, as we age and work through life is that the failures that seem so earth ending at times really give us the greatest gifts. So I'm excited to dive into that a little bit more with you. Let's start at the beginning. Where are you from? Where do you live right now? Where were you born
Sure.
and raised?
I am very blessed to live in beautiful Franklin, Tennessee. For those that don't know, it's 15 miles, between 15 or 20 miles south of Nashville, depending on where you live in Franklin. I have three children, 14, going to be 13 and 9. And about 7 years ago, my wife Holly, who's a teacher, and she has a real estate license. So we have that love for real estate.
Mm.
But we relocated our family here from outside of Detroit, and it wasn't just to avoid the state of Michigan income tax, though residency planning is one of those strategies that some people use.
Yeah.
But it really was because I was able to arrange my workflow, and with my wife being a teacher, we were just looking for that quality of life. And honestly, about 10 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, because it took a while, we really looked at the country and we said, where do we want to raise our kids? It's going to be a difficult decision to execute. Wasn't necessarily a difficult decision to make, but when we fell in love with, there are certain things we were both looking for, and we fell in love with this community of Franklin, and very fortunate to be here. So that's where I am right now.
Hmm.
And although that being said, we do have team members that, in other states, and our clients are really all over the place, which helped me a lot, or allowed me to be able to not be so geographically centered in Detroit, we started the practice. And the first 10 years, I really felt like I was so geographically centered and not industry specific,
Hmm.
as far as our practice area.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the ability to work remote and the changes in technology over the years. And not only that, I think people's acceptance of working under that format has changed everything. I mean, I think all of us individually, the profession, of course, I think will continue to evolve the profession. But to your point, being able to choose where we live without being tied down, ball and chain to a specific location. So that's really cool. And I love that area. I'm a horse person.
Oh,
So I love between Kentucky and Tennessee and those areas and all the rolling and grass, and it's so beautiful. And of course, now I live in Vegas. I'm in the desert, so I don't know how that happened.
well, that's all right. Also, I know you're in a great, well, I know you love food,
Yep.
and checking out all of that. There's never a dull moment in Vegas with the food, food and drink
Yeah.
scene. And so yeah, it's great here. We have a lot of horse farms here. And
Yep.
I would say that in one of the hacks, as an accountant or a CPA that's practicing, is if you can niche. And we that's been a great theme as far as on this podcast. Sometimes not living in the same geographic area as your client, there's a lot of advantages to that. Just because there are several,
Hmm.
but just being able to have the knowledge of the industry that they're in can be a huge advantage. And a lot of times, believe it or not, the clients, especially for us, our focus is real estate and entrepreneurs. So many times our clients are pretty much the number one real estate investor in their specific city or town. The
Oh.
last thing they want is someone in that town knowing all of their information, all of their income,
Oh,
all their assets.
that's okay. That's really interesting. Okay, so I
Mhm.
want to go down this path for a second, even though I want to back up and hear more about you personally. But because you opened up this little CPA hack, I
Mhm.
think it's really interesting that you're looking at it and call it a hack. That maybe not living in the vicinity of your clients gives you both an advantage, but also personally, but also with your clients that I really wouldn't have thought of before. And sort of adding to that thought before I have you respond, how do you then manage the client relationship? Because that's right. The CPA space, we're the trusted advisor, right? So
Mhm.
we build these client relationships. We're privy to all their financial, personal information. I know the younger generations are certainly much more open and have more confidence in working remote, working with remote partners, and having their stuff being sent, transferred automatically or electronically. I mean, but how do you then manage that? You've got benefits to doing that, but then how do you handle those client relationships and really bonding with people when you aren't in the same area?
Mhm. Couple hacks here, and so one hack to understand. It's not really a big. I mean, we all know this, but first thing is communication solves all problems. That's in almost any relationship that you're in. So for our private practice and with teaching tax flow, which is what we're going to be talking about, is also for us, our standard is we're going to reply to any type of communication within one business day.
Hmm.
And you know what that doesn't mean, and that scares a lot of accountants. That doesn't mean you have to have the answer within one business day. We had one of our members of Teaching Tax Flow. I asked a question about their Social Security benefits and what to do. And if I just ignored it or we ignored that question, they would be frustrated. But
Hmm.
what we said is, okay, let's call timeout. Give me a little bit more information. Talk to me a little bit about your what we call your board of directors, the people that you're working with, and let's create a task and let's figure out what you're trying to solve and come up with a great solution for you. A lot of accountants do all that, but they don't tell the client or the member that they're doing it.
Hmm.
So communication solves all problems. I'll give you an example. I'm not good with vehicles, even though I'm from Detroit. If you drop your vehicle off at a dealership or at a mechanic shop, and they say, all right, well, we'll look at it by Friday, by the end of the week. They use that term end of the week, and it's Tuesday. Your end of the week might be Friday, but their end of the week might be Saturday. Friday, 3 p.m. rolls around, and you haven't heard anything from them. Where are you at? You assume the worst because
Hmm.
mentally we always assume the worst and we don't know what the answer is. You call frustrated and you get someone at 3 p.m. on Friday and they say, oh, yeah, well, we looked at it. It needs a part. We expect the part to be next Wednesday, so we'll have it to you next Thursday. You're not happy because now you don't have your vehicle for almost another week.
Hmm.
But had they called you when they looked at it and said, here's the situation, we're missing a part, your vehicle is not necessarily drivable, but we want to prepare you for that, and here's our expectation. Now all of a sudden, okay, you don't have, at least they communicated. It's not their fault, the mechanic's fault that your car's broken and that
Hmm.
they don't have the part necessarily. So that's the thing is communication solves all problems.
Yep.
Other thing I learned from one of our clients, that was a national football NFL player, and what they talk about a lot of times is availability is your best ability. Coachability is your other best ability. So something that so the point is when you're talking about someone that's remote, promise availability as far as returning those emails, but we've created a service called CPA Urgent Care, and that clients could come in and come into a triage. We assess what they need, and then they talk to one of our tax specialists, one-on-one in a private setting. And those hours are set up. We do it 3 times a week, 2 hours a week.
Hmm?
And for that has cut down on a lot of meetings, but also the clients know 3 days a week, they can pop in at their convenience and they will be seen pretty much within 5 minutes.
Wow. That is
So that,
okay. I have never heard of that. So that is fascinating. I think that's a pretty cool idea, concept.
thank you. We,
And-
we've got some IP on it. We're going to be in that, and that's part of what we're going to be really expanding out too. So it's been really cool. Yeah. And so to manage those relationships,
Mhm.
availability and communication,
Mhm.
those two things are the most important because if I went into a room of 50 accountants, I have no clue who's good and who's not. And neither do clients. And unfortunately, and I know you asked me about these personal questions, but unfortunately, for a lot of taxpayers, because
Mhm.
taxpayers, they haven't, let's say they haven't shopped for a tax professional or an accountant before, they don't know what the value, they don't understand even what they're shopping for.
Mm.
So if you could imagine, let's say you have a grandparent or a parent or an uncle that is, let's say, 78 years old and they haven't bought a refrigerator in 20 years. They're going to get sticker shock, right? And they don't even know what they need. They don't even know how to use it. So some of the functions. And I
Yeah.
don't either, for the lack of a better
Right.
term. But
Right. Yeah. Right. That's a good point. So let's talk then about the flow of your evolving business, I guess, or
Mhm.
your professional career, because really, I think from my understanding, you started kind of standard public accounting, probably started a firm, and now we're running into this very interesting era where staffing is difficult. Everybody's got more work than they can possibly handle. We've got a
Mhm.
whole arm of our business that does outside marketing for CPA firms. Okay, well that's great, but the problem is nobody wants any clients right now. They're going, great, market, fine, but how much marketing
Mhm.
do I want? Don't bring me any new leads because I don't want any new clients.
Mhm.
So there's that issue. There's not enough staff to do the work. So then we're at capacity, which you had mentioned, you and I were speaking earlier, and you kind of mentioned that your private practice is at capacity. What have you done now? Talk to me about where are you going? Because what you're building now is so cool. And I really think it's stepping into the next era.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. I would say the first 10 years of my career, I failed forward a lot. I like to say I paid a lot of tuition. And to make a long story short, I we had a team, but essentially I was responsible for building a practice that had 7 offices, 3,400 clients, of a staff of over 25 people. And I built it based on me running it instead of processes running. And it was what seems like a great thing was not a great thing. I regretfully missed the first 5 years of my older two children's lives, the
Mm,
14-year-old and the going to be 13. Um, and it was like, what am I doing here? And at that point, we started experimenting. So that was about 12 years ago, 11 years ago now, with the subscription based model, and kind of implemented that, drew a line in the sand, implemented that, and then finally just went all into that. So we at that point, I had the burden of, of all the clients, all and me not having the right processes set up. So we ended up divesting most of the practice. We had 4 people on the team that were very capable of having their own practice, and they still are in business, and taking those clients and kind of chisel it all down
hmm
to build it back up to be real estate specific, membership based subscription business model, focused on tax planning and strategy. So that's on the private CPA practice. So we
hmm
built that pretty much to capacity. Now we have a 1/10 of the amount of clients. We have 25% of the staff, and actually more revenue than we did when we had all these crazy offices and staff.
Really? And that's through building processes. So, is that technology? Is that systems? How have you
Mhm.
implemented that?
Yeah. So building, so we have a few little sayings like it's a problem till it's a problem till there's a process. Using technology is very important. And I think what happens in our industry is that accountants, CPAs, tax preparers, they get so tired of repeating the same things over and over that they get burnt out,
hmm
and they don't understand. And I'm a little guilty of this, why someone doesn't understand what they're talking about when we're talking about taxes the first time we say it.
hmm
So one of the main pivots we did was we started using videos. So if we get 3 questions from different clients that are the same question 3 times rather, it's a video. A video has to be created to explain the situation. A lot of accountants and CPAs run into an unfortunate situation where lenders are asking for CPA comfort letters. I don't know if you've been familiar with that at all.
A little bit,
But
yeah.
what happens is the underwriter is asking for something that violates the AICPA code of ethics. Well, it puts you in a bad situation. So what we did, we recorded a video, and we explained why we can't provide the exact verbiage that the underwriter wants. What can we do for them? And that we're there to help them as much as possible. And we've yet to have a client not get a loan in about 8 years. And hundreds and hundreds of people watch this video because we can see that's the other thing. If you use the right software, you can see who watches the video. They can make comments on it and that sort of stuff. So,
Interesting. So, our group has a partner track program. It's called the Partner Institute. It's a 3-year training program to develop staff and really teach them to be leaders and future partners in firms. And in one of the sessions, there's always a discussion about things like this, about innovation, or how can we start to look at solving problems. I'm gonna have so many one-liners after this podcast. It's like I'm writing them all down. So we say it's a problem until it's a process. I'm using that one, Chris.
That's
So
good.
we were talking in the Partner Institute about the same thing: is how do we look at what we're doing, what is taking the majority of our time that becomes repetitive, that is keeping us from doing the proactive things that we really need to focus on. It's sort of that 80-20 rule. We end up
Mhm.
80% of our time spent on the things that, create 20% of the revenue. And how do we solve that? And to your point, one of those solutions was to create videos and
Mhm.
resources for clients to access. So we aren't spending endless hours answering the same questions, having the same conversation, teaching clients about certain concepts that we can put there. And historically, I was even a little hesitant about that because, in a sense, you think, well, our relationships with our clients, the people we work with, it's a relationship. We want to bond, we want to be there, we want to support them. But there's a balance where you do that to a certain point, and videos, although maybe somewhat impersonal, there's only so much time in a day. And I agree with you. I think that's a tremendous process that more people should utilize.
And I would agree that, with the videos, especially if they are only for your clients, which that's how we started doing our videos,
Hmm.
then, everything from scheduling a meeting, logging on your portal, uploading documents, electronically signing your 8879 form, all that could be videos. And it actually helps the taxpayer and the client because they can absorb it at their pace.
Hmm.
And they're not trying to explain it to their spouse or significant other, which is another. Now you've doubled it, and now you have
Yeah,
them bantering about. So
that's
the
yeah.
first thing was you control your workflow. Don't let it control you. And I
Hmm.
spent 10 years of it controlling me. If I hadn't done that, I might have a nice hairdo. But who knows? But now we control it. And honestly, for your clients, the ones that really get it, they're going to understand that they're hiring you, they're partnering with you because of your knowledge, not
Hmm.
because you can help them set up a client portal. Now, obviously, you need to have a team if someone gets stuck or something that they can help them out. But I mean, if you look at pretty much look, if you get stuck somewhere, Heidi, you might, let's say you're stuck on the side of the road and your battery light's on or something, you might call someone, but you might look at YouTube first, try to find a 3-minute answer, and say, all right, let me just get my car. Something might be wrong.
Hmm.
So,
It's a great point. So with your practice, you've
yeah.
excuse me, you've implemented processes to give yourself more time to create that flexibility, focus on proactive things, because yes, that's ultimately the ability to grow and expand. Tell us more about some of the other innovations. I mean, first off, going to a subscription-based model, we're hearing more and more. A lot of firms still are like, that's impossible. We can't do that. So actually, before we start to talk about your other
Mhm.
things you're building, let's actually dive into that for just a second. How difficult was that transition? And, how do you handle that both for yourself and then also for other CPA firms whose first response is, that's impossible. We can't do that.
Well, it is harder to turn around an 18-wheeler than a motorcycle. So let's say that. And I think, and that's something that we're going to be really, you know, helping people with later this year. Understand that you don't have to do it all in one fail swoop.
Hmm.
The first thing you should probably do if you're considering going to a subscription model is test it out on your next 5 leads. Don't even worry about your legacy clients. Find someone that's going to champion this. You might be the only person in your practice. And if you are, believe it or not, it's going to be easier for you to change than than a practice of 25, 30, 40 people.
Hmm.
And yeah, we have, there's basically 8 steps to it. It's funny, I put together continuing ed. We've done a few times for different outfits. And our CRM reached out and said, this subscription model, this is like 2 years ago. This sounds pretty cool. Would you teach your continuing ed for us on it? I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And but it forced me to really dive deep and say, well, how did I just did what I thought was right. Well, how did I do all this stuff? What were the steps? So
Hmm.
there are 8 steps, but the first one is just understanding that that's the future. If you're a larger firm, maybe find someone that believes in this and try it for the next 5 clients. Don't worry
Mm.
about the legacy clients. The legacy clients will it'll all come out in the wash one way or another. You're either going to potentially create a separate brand just for the subscription model, or you're going to make it so that the legacy clients, it's advantageous for them to move into the subscription model.
Hmm.
That's it. I know that's a lot easier
Yeah.
said than done, but
No, it's interesting. I mean, it's a good concept, it's not all or none, that you don't have a choice, it's not, look, you have to evolve your whole company overnight and now you're something new and building different. It's good, I think, to think that, look, baby steps. I did a podcast with he calls himself Coach, and it was great. It's all about health and wellness and all kinds of stuff. And it was the exact same thing. It's baby steps. You
mhm.
literally reading another book, Evolve or Die, and it's like 1% change. All you have to do is a 1% change per day. And it's interesting because then that starts to carry over to all aspects of our life. It's not just our fitness or health. It's, not our professional growth or personal development, but also in our practice. We can make very small baby step changes and see how that evolves over time. So where else are you then evolving? So you've taken your firm to subscription model. Now you have
Mhm.
all kinds of other things you're branching out in. Tell us
Mhm.
about that.
So yeah, absolutely. And I would say, so with the private practice, we did get to a certain capacity, but in my heart, I love teaching. I love helping people out. I have a passion for helping out CPAs and tax professionals. I started my practice when I was 27, and I was too young and dumb to know what I didn't know, and I did, figure out all the things that I would fail forward on. But and I am also have a passion for helping taxpayers. Unfortunately, we've been doing some research for a presentation we're doing. Only 25 states require someone to even take a finance or economics course to even graduate from high school.
Hmm.
So that's a problem. So we have a entrepreneur. We don't even know how to be taught to be entrepreneurs, let alone the tax stuff. And even the CPA exam. Nowhere on the CPA exam do they test you on actual tax planning and strategy. It's just, do you know this information?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, I don't want to say we're all victims, but we all are. The whole structure is set up for a lack of knowledge and education. So we're really passionate about helping the CPA and accounting community and also taxpayers. So our private practice, yes, we got to capacity because we implemented this subscription-based model. In the subscription-based model, we focused on tax planning and strategy. And to be able to scale that, we developed a proprietary tax planning and strategy, which didn't have a name. We just did what we did and it worked and people were happy. So about it's kind of fits in with this podcast. About 5 years ago, I was out for a run. I'm like, what? A lot of our clients are real estate investors. They understand cash flow. Oh, let's just call our process teaching tax flow.
Oh.
Tax flow. What is tax flow? It doesn't exist.
Hmm.
Well, it's the benefit or burden of every tax decision. It's your after tax product of a decision. So just like cost segregation study, you could actually, in the right situation, get paid for buying a property.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a cash flow. It could cash flow positive, and you could actually receive a refund, a large refund. Not to dive into the cost seg study, but that's an
Yeah.
example of cash flow versus tax flow. And I'm like, okay, well, what are the principles of teaching tax flow? So we came up with 3 principles. Those are our guiding lights. The point is, so that was like the special sauce. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, how can we get this to everyone? How can we have the person that bought their first rental property? They're not going to be able to pay $5,000 or more for a CPA firm that has a specialty. And even if they do the first year and we implement some strategy and they go somewhere later because they only bought one property, it doesn't work for anyone. So how can we create something that can empower people to legally and ethically reduce the tax they pay in their lifetime, taxpayers, and also accountants? How can we, because if we're going to tell accountants, look, you should use value pricing, you should maybe go to this membership model, they're going to want to do it, but they're going to be like, how do I do it? Because I've never done tax planning. I'm not taught. All I know
Mm-hmm.
is, well, tax planning, I'll just put something in my timesheet and call it tax planning. So that was teaching tax law was born. And for most of 2022, I really worked on creating teaching tax law. Now we have a team of people that work with we call it TTF. And we decided that we have to create lessons that are 5 minutes or less. We call them mini lessons,
Hmm.
and to teach certain concepts. And the cool thing is, almost everything that we get asked, we have a mini lesson for. And now I don't have to repeat myself all the time. So
Yeah.
Teaching Tax will officially launch the day after Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
And it's a community. It's a community of taxpayers and accountants. We call strategic implementation partners like Engineer Tax Service, because one of the other challenges we have is that taxpayers in general want a prescription before they have a diagnosis. So we have
Hmm.
a proprietary system of diagnose, prescribe, and that's teaching tax flow. And that's really where 80% of my time now is helping people out and really breaking down those myths that you have to have a lot of income or have a lot of assets to do tax planning. We've done case studies where it could be an elementary school teacher that just graduated, and the other spouse could be, work at a landscaping company or something. And they could save thousands and thousands and thousands by doing by putting money in their Roth 401k when it gets a 403b, instead of what everyone thinks you should be doing is you're told to do is putting in your 403b program pre-tax.
Mhm.
Someone in a 12% marginal tax bracket should not be going tax deferred. Not to get too technical, but these are the things that teaching tax flow is solving. We're kind of like, I'm not going to call us the Uber of transportation yet, but you know what we are? We're the television remote control.
Hmm. So
Now,
how do you monetize that when we're used to looking at billable hours and we're billing time? How do you monetize that type of a structure for yourself?
mhm. So obviously in the private practice, which I'll set to the side, there's a subscription model. But with teaching tax flow, it's really, we have a value ladder that fits for every type of person.
Hmm.
We have two main avatars. We have that first beginning avatar person that's getting started. Our unlimited membership is less than $100 a month for everything Teaching Tax Flow offers, including our proprietary calculators, our community page. We have some free content just so people can understand what it is. That would be our podcast, private Facebook group, some of our stuff on social media, and then it goes all the way up to the one-on-one 3-month tax coaching program.
Hmm.
So it is a slow burn, and yes, I've had to have a very successful, I shouldn't say successful, but fruitful, because just because you make money doesn't make you successful, but a fruitful CPA practice to be able to take some serious steps back and launch TTF. But
Right.
really, what we're finding is that on average, I have my notes here. So we've gotten teaching tests. So we've got people that want the self-guided. That's our
Mhm.
avatar of the beginners. For every hour they're in teaching tax flow, in general, they're saving about $185 in tax per hour that they put into doing the self-guided. So their break even's about a half hour a month if their cost is $90. Now, that being said, we have mini lessons. If someone's really just like, I really want to understand, I don't know, can you, any cost segregation studies, just because I know.
Yeah.
You could take a cost segregation mini lesson for about $20 and understand it. Now, you'll still need help applying it.
Yeah.
And obviously there's some revenue opportunities there with the implementation of these strategies.
Mhm.
So, and then the average, we've launched Teaching Tax Flow, or TTF Urgent Care, the
Mhm.
same concept as our private practice. And that comes with an in-person meeting plus some implementation. And something like that, I think it's about $730. The average savings right now is $6,800 for the taxpayer. And we're tracking this. And we're hoping to continue to increase that. But
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we got to talk more about that too, because it's incredible, some of the incredible investment opportunities and the strategies that are available at all different levels, to your point, because anymore we work with a lot of investors or small individuals, normal people out there with regular jobs, a teacher and a contractor who bought their first rental property or they've bought their second rental property and they're growing their portfolio. And I personally have seen some of these people really start to grow their net worth. And it is one of the most inspiring things. One of the things I've probably enjoyed the most is helping teach someone a little bit more about real estate investing and how to use some of these strategies and watch their portfolio grow, watch them change and evolve into something, a legit real estate investor, or it doesn't always real estate, even a business owners are growing their business or what it may be. What are your thoughts then on giving all the information away? Sometimes we hear those comments that, well, then you're just giving all this information away and they're going to go somewhere else.
Right, and that's a
You
toughie, right? Because you've got YouTube and you've got other outlets where people can absorb information. But the key is having the community to implement to implement those strategies. To what we have some copyrighted what we call our IQ test, which is a 4-part test: identify, quantify. So yes, there's free content out there, but we feel that at our price points, the value the value that people are getting is for the guidance and making sure they're with the right people. I mean, I've got a hot button issue with the ERTC, and which kind of led us to state before, like, do you want to work with a reputable firm like yours, or do you want to work with a one that they've got a cute domain name and they're filing false claims? I know you have your story about your friends that they're not to go on that tangent, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying that like, hey, well, guess what? We qualify, and you're like, no, you don't. But anyway,
Yep.
the point is, one option would have been just, I feel like we give away a lot of complimentary content, but I know that once someone realizes that people in our community know what they're talking about, the end users will go up the value ladder up to it where it makes sense for them. And
Hmm.
what we do is we don't push people up that ladder,
Hmm.
they climb it on their own. The
Yeah.
other thing I should have mentioned as far as a community is we launched something called like the TTF Black Belt program. And that's actually intended for other tax professionals that are, as we said, not many of them are looking for more work, but those tax professionals that want to learn more about tax planning and strategy, they have to take our 3 core courses, which only takes about 3.5 to 4 hours. There's a little bit of competency testing, but
Hmm.
then when we have people in our community that are looking for that fit, then those tax professionals understand our process and our system. So,
Yeah. Well, it's so fun to hear kind of the path that you've taken that looks like it's a process of failing forward, but then evolving and in finding new opportunities as you're running into roadblocks, like getting to capacity in your practice. And then where do we go from here? Where are the other opportunities that exist? So taking it really back to the beginning, in essence, what makes you tick? You're a slow I feel like you could be a slogan writer. You've got all these great taglines. Next time I have a business concept, I'm gonna call you and be like, "Chris, I need a slogan."
sounds good.
So what makes you tick? At some point in your life, formative life, I feel like there's always something when we're young that
Mhm.
sort of changes us, some experience that we had that sort of pushes the trajectory. What was that for you that's kind
Mhm.
of created, Chris, this drive and this ambition that you have?
Well, that's a great question. My parents, growing up in just outside of Detroit, very hardworking, very blue collar area, and I was always entrepreneurial. But I started at a young age. I became a Detroit newspaper boy. Back like the video game, like running or driving a bike around with the papers in it and doing my own stuffers. But I was able to utilize the paper route
Mhm.
to smuggle over to Kmart, if anyone knows where that is, and get a slushie. And my mom, if she ever listens to this, will probably be mad at me. But I would spend like $1 a day or probably 75 cents on a slushie, which hey, I pedaled my bike around about a bunch of miles. But I was able to take that, and then I was able to take some money, and I love collecting baseball cards and buy baseball cards, and that ended up actually being somewhat profitable as well. And I guess that's kind of sparked my entrepreneurial spirit. And it's kind of funny thinking about those days because I was, I think, 13, 14. I would not only have to lug these papers around, plus you got the conditions, the wintry conditions. I had to go to
Mhm.
random people's houses and collect money. There's no like you knock on the door, collect, and but all of these things, kind of those skills came into me. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I liked math. I was not going to be good enough to be on the Detroit Tigers. So I thought, all right, well, I'm gonna this is just the route I'm gonna go. But so I really love. I'm honestly, I'm just an entrepreneur that happened to be a CPA and knew forming a CPA firm would be my best route to being
Mhm.
able to be entrepreneurial. And now I spend some time, we love real estate. I love doing different real estate deals. I like doing investing in real estate and really helping people out with, I don't know, just keeping more of their money that they
Mhm.
should be.
Mhm.
We have a saying, here's another saying is like, you know, one of our 3 pillars is that the tax agencies are your involuntary business partner. So
Mhm.
you either pick your tax or they pick your tax. You get the choice in how you that's the core teaching tax law, what your actions are. Pick your tax. I know that. So yeah, just thinking back the paper route thing, I don't know, just I've been, I guess, given a gift of compassion for people and
Mm.
wanting to teach them. It's just, and that's why, once we really focused on the private CPA practice, but yet got to the capacity, I was just thinking, gosh, a lot of the people in my life, I can't even help them anymore if I stick
Mm.
to what I'm doing right now. And I
Yeah.
want to be able to help them. If I didn't know my parents, I want them to be able to go to teaching tax flow and say, oh, okay, I understand, you know, a one-time transfer to my health savings account. And
Mhm.
who should I talk to about it?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's
So
huge because, back to one of your one-liners,
yeah.
about, it's a problem until it's a process. I gotta go back
Yes.
to my notes. But you've been able to create these processes that have then freed you up. And you had said earlier that you had your firm and you really missed out on some of the important years of your kids when they were young. Your 2 oldest kids. And it sounds like you've been able to adjust that a little bit. So here you are, you've got a firm that's kind of at capacity right now. You're building some other programs, you're doing education. Then tell me, if I had to guess,
Yeah.
I'm guessing you do have time and you found also time to spend time with your kids and be involved and to take care of yourself. So tell us now a little bit about how do you balance all of that in your life?
Hmm. Well, one of the hacks of having a successful practice is time blocking.
Mm.
And you need, if you had an appointment with a client, you would not show up and no call, no show up. Hope you wouldn't. So treat yourself the same way. If that's like right now, I love playing pickleball. It's gotten to a pretty competitive level in part, but it's a lot of fun.
It's fastest growing
And
sport in America.
yeah, it's great. I'm trying. Yeah, I love it's so fun, and I love I like going running. It's more for my mental health. And if weather permitting, but if my time block for exercise, for me, my time block for exercise is 6 in the morning to about 7:30, give or take, because
Mhm.
I'm not stealing time from my family yet.
Mhm.
I'm not stealing time from my business. I'm not stealing time from, and you need that creative outlet. So yeah, I'm just not gonna miss things anymore unless we have to, or we have a schedule conflict. But I also want our kids to understand work is a high priority.
Mhm.
But it unfortunately I missed a lot. And I guess one of the other things, this formative things, is the pain of just missing stuff. And I just remember some things that my wife completely understood, but like, my daughter's 3rd birthday, and she's like, "Hey, we're gonna meet at this restaurant. Be there. It starts at 4:30, so be there by 4:20." It's like, okay, I didn't see that. It was just a bad feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah, I just made a promise that I'm gonna be there for their stuff. I'm gonna be a supportive friend, a supportive husband, and try
Mhm.
to also treat myself to the things I like to do. And luckily, not all of them are the greatest health. I mean, I do like some froyo and some hot chicken and stuff, but in really just surround yourself with people that we tell the kids all the time. Like, if you want to know your future, look around you. So
Wow.
surround yourself with people that are bringing you up and challenging you, but you know really, like, it's funny, we have I know change it, but I put a little sticky note up in our refrigerator because I know everyone goes in there,
Yeah.
and it just says, in order, number one, faith, family, work, fun. And that's just what I'm going to have to, now you can have fun, but
Hmm.
it's a lot more fun when your work is taken care of, when your grades are good and you feel good about taking that time. And yeah, I'm not missing that much, but also I love what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And because of the practice we have, we have a lot of flexibility. So if
Yeah.
it's 8 at night to 9:30 and I want to return emails, then because I've time blocked that, that's fine. So now I would recommend one hack, because I don't want people to say I don't give all my secrets away, but if you're going to return emails from 8 to 9:30 p.m., make sure you delay send them till the next
Yeah.
morning, because you don't want to start a conversation at 10 at night with somebody. But
Yep. I was doing that last night. I was like, I got to remember how to do my delay send on this because I don't, there's nothing worse than waking up at 6 in the morning either with an inbox full of emails. So,
mhm.
so that's not fun, but yeah, that's a good hack. Well, I love the overall focus. I mean, your goals and what you're building, what you've developed for yourself are really, in a sense, having goals and understanding what you'd missed and wanting to redirect your time and block time for balancing what also is important, which then really, I think, motivates all of us to then find solutions. And that's the key. Find the solution to fix the problem. And, a lot of times it is those processes so we can create time and we can factor that into our lives because life is too short. Life's too short to give up our health, our wealth, our kids, our family, our lives. But I'm with you. I love what I do. I think we're blessed working in an amazing career. One last question. I always like to ask this question.
Mhm.
Um, what do you wish you knew? What do you know now that you wish you knew when you were 20?
Man,
What would you tell your 20-year-old self?
um, hmm, wow, okay. I don't get emotional that often. I would tell myself, trust yourself. Everything's going to work out better than you thought.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know it's kind of a 30,000-foot thing, but yep.
Yeah. But you know what? I I respect that so much, and I expect your emotion that comes from that as well.
Mhm.
Because my kids are all in their mid-20s. My daughter's 23, and she's going through this phase of finding herself. It's a little painful. It's painful for her. It's painful for me because she's at a
Mhm.
breaking away phase as well. But 20, it can be such a hard time. And to your point, if we could just impress to our kids, and if I could do the same thing myself when I was 20, and to your point, just go back and say, just trust yourself a little. Just find that confidence and trust yourself. It's going to be okay. So that is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that. Thanks for joining me today. I love the conversations. I've thoroughly enjoyed meeting you. I loved being on your podcast. I love what you're doing. We definitely need to talk more about all this TTF and just connect because I would love to continue to work with you. So with that, thank you so much for being a guest on today's podcast. Chris, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what would be the best way to reach out or do some research and find more info?
Well, thank you again. It's been a pleasure. We have an amazing team here, and to find me, I'm on LinkedIn, but probably the best thing to do would be going to teachingtaxflow.com. That's our community uh, page, our website. If you're on Facebook, we have a private Facebook group that anyone who listens to this is invited to, called Defeating Taxes. That's defeatingtaxes.com. It'll take you right there. Would love the interaction is amazing. And honestly, we do a weekly poll that tells me what people want, and it's like which is really great. And or find me on LinkedIn and message me, connect with me. We have even written on my boards up here, which if you're watching, you get is collaboration over competition. So let's
Mm.
collaborate and let's bring out the best in each other.
All right. That sounds amazing. I love it. All right. Well, thank you again. I so appreciate it. I hope you have a fantastic day. And thanks to all your listeners.